A quiet but profound shift is underway in global finance, not in New York or London but in the markets of Lagos and Nairobi. China has launched its own international payment system in Africa, challenging the decades-long dominance of the US dollar. For years, nearly every major international transaction has been priced and settled in dollars, granting the US immense economic and political power. Now Beijing and Africa are forging a new path, bypassing the dollar entirely through the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS. This isn't just about saving on fees, it's a bold geopolitical move to reduce dependence on the US and build a multipolar world. The implications are enormous, from trade and investment to the effectiveness of US sanctions. If you control the plumbing, you control the flow. Until now, the US dollar has been the world's financial plumbing. SWIFT, the dominant messaging system, has let the US monitor and block transactions globally. China's CIPS is building a parallel system, offering countries a choice they never had before. This could rewrite the rules of global commerce for the 21st century. As of August 2025, the first tremors of this financial earthquake are being felt. Many African nations see China as a partner who understands their aspirations, not just an investor. This shared perspective is fueling a new economic alliance, aiming to reshape a system long seen as tilted against them. The launch of CIPS in Africa is the next logical step in this deepening relationship. The world's financial order is being challenged from the ground up. The question is, how far will this new system go? So, what is CIPS? The Cross-Border Interbank Payment System is China's answer to the global financial messaging network. Launched in 2015, it's a superhighway for settling international transactions in Chinese yuan. Its goal? Make the yuan as easy to use globally as the dollar. CIPS has grown rapidly, now processing trillions of yuan annually and connecting thousands of institutions in over 100 countries. It's not just a messaging system, it handles both payment orders and settlement, unlike SWIFT, which relies on US-based correspondent banks. This makes CIPS faster, cheaper, and outside US regulatory reach. For countries looking to de-risk from American influence, it's a one-stop shop for yuan payments. China is actively promoting CIPs, especially among key partners in Asia, Latin America, and now Africa. The strategy: build a robust network, create critical mass, and make the yuan indispensable for global trade. CIPS's expansion into Africa marks a pivotal new chapter in this global rollout. Africa is central to China's global strategy. The continent boasts fast-growing economies, a young population, and vital resources for China's industries. China's relationship with Africa goes beyond trade. It's about infrastructure, diplomacy, and cultural ties. Introducing a yuan-based payment system cements this partnership. China has been Africa's largest trading partner for over 15 years, but most trade was settled in dollars, adding costs and inefficiencies. CIPS streamlines trade, making Chinese goods cheaper for Africans and African resources more accessible to China. Politically, many African leaders see CIPS as a way to assert economic sovereignty and negotiate with the West on more equal terms. China offers partnership without political strings, unlike Western institutions. The Belt and Road Initiative is the physical side. CIPS is the financial backbone. Loans, projects, and repayments can now flow in yuan, creating a closed-loop ecosystem. This integration of infrastructure, trade, and finance could transform Africa's economic landscape. To grasp China's move, compare CIPS with SWIFT. SWIFT is the invisible backbone of global finance, connecting over 11,000 institutions in 200-plus countries. It's a messaging network like a postal service for payment instructions, but doesn't move money itself. CIPS does both. It transmits instructions and settles funds, making transactions faster and more efficient. The real difference is political. SWIFT, though neutral, is vulnerable to US and EU pressure. The US has used SWIFT to cut off countries like Iran and North Korea, turning it into a tool of foreign policy. CIPS, backed by China, is designed to be immune to such pressure. It offers a haven for countries at odds with Washington, ensuring uninterrupted trade. Financial institutions now face a choice: stick with SWIFT and the dollar, or connect to CIPS and the yuan. Many African banks are choosing both, maximizing options and minimizing risks. This dual-system world is the new reality of global finance. The landscape is shifting, fast. CIPS adoption in Africa is already underway. Central banks and major commercial institutions are integrating the system. Zambia was an early mover, enabling direct yuan payments for copper exports and Chinese imports. Nigeria's central bank signed a currency swap with China, making yuan liquidity readily available. Nigerian banks now offer yuan accounts in trade finance, reflecting the huge volume of Chinese goods in local markets. South Africa's Standard Bank, partnered with China's ICBC, is a primary clearinghouse for yuan transactions across the continent. This creates a hub-and-spoke model, with South African banks at the center. The trend is accelerating. From Kenya to Ghana, banks are adding yuan services to stay competitive. Each new connection strengthens the network, making CIPs more valuable. What began as a niche service is quickly becoming mainstream for African businesses. For African businesses, the benefits of CIPs are practical and immediate. The biggest advantage: cost reduction. Trading in dollars means multiple conversions and fees. CIPS enables direct local currency to yuan transactions, saving money. Speed is another plus. Traditional payments can take days, but CIPS transactions often settle within hours. Faster payments mean better cash flow and more agile supply chains. Reducing reliance on the dollar also shields African economies from US monetary policy shocks, like sudden interest rate hikes. Diversifying into yuan gives central banks more flexibility and resilience. CIPS also opens new opportunities, easier access to Chinese markets and goods, fostering innovation and growth. A Rwandan tech startup can pay for components from Shenzhen, or a Senegalese designer can sell on Chinese platforms. CIPS isn't just a payment system, it's a gateway to deeper commercial ties. For many African entrepreneurs, it's a game changer. The financial landscape is being rewired for a new era. The bottom line: CIPS empowers African commerce. In Washington, CIPS's rise is causing alarm. The dollar's status as the world's reserve currency underpins US power, allowing cheap borrowing and global influence. This exorbitant privilege supports America's military and economic dominance. The dollar's power also enables US sanctions, cutting off adversaries from global finance. But CIPS offers a viable alternative, immune to US pressure. Every transaction that shifts from SWIFT to CIPS is beyond the reach of the US Treasury. Africa has long been a sphere of US influence, often through financial leverage. China's financial inroads threaten to diminish this, giving African nations more independence. Washington is scrambling for a response, but the era of uncontested US supremacy is ending. The debate continues, but one thing is clear: the world is entering a new era of financial competition. The dollar's grip is loosening. The future is multipolar. China's push for CIPS in Africa is part of a global de-dollarization trend led by the BRICS bloc. BRICS, now expanded to include new members, aims to reduce dependence on the dollar and create a more multipolar financial system. Western sanctions on Russia after 2022 accelerated this movement as countries realized their assets could be frozen if they fell out with Washington. CIPS emerged as the most credible alternative. BRICS nations are now settling more trade in local currencies, bypassing the dollar. India buys Russian oil in rupees, Brazil trades with China in yuan. CIPS's expansion into Africa fits perfectly, enabling non-dollar trade across the continent. This is about a fundamental realignment of global economic power. The de-dollarization movement is updating the global economy for a multipolar world. It's a peaceful but determined rebellion against an outdated order. The future is a more fragmented, competitive financial landscape. The dollar won't disappear overnight, but its dominance is fading. We're moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar one, with the yuan rising as a significant second pole. For Africa, this means more choice and leverage. Nations can play competing systems off each other for better terms. Strategic flexibility could boost economic sovereignty and development, but there are risks. Over-reliance on the yuan could create new dependencies, and debt sustainability is a concern. African leaders must manage this new landscape carefully, diversifying rather than swapping one dependency for another. The launch of CIPS in Africa is a landmark in the global power shift. It promises lower costs, greater efficiency, and a shield against US sanctions. The US dollar will remain important, but its era of absolute dominance is ending. We're witnessing the birth of a complex, multipolar financial order. The real question: how will Africa leverage this new era to realize its full potential? The world is watching,